men in these positions like a Cam, if Jazz was the one saying what Sarah is saying, and again, we don't know, it don't sound like it, but let's say she was. How a man receives that is almost like, I'm giving you the top shelf love of what I have to offer, and you saying that's good enough, but you want more, and the more being the title, the status, at that point, the marriage means more than the man. We may not say it, we may not be conscious of it, but as soon as there's an inclination of that, we now feel like we are second-class citizens in our own relationship, and the status of matrimony is what's really important to you. So are you really here for me for real?
When people show you who they are, you should believe them. They comfy being lost, they resent you for trying to lead them. Full of their own trauma, you'll hurt them, just try and feed them. My wisdom felt like prison, we split up to give you freedom.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our first episode of Take Their Mics.
Take their mother mic.
That part. My name is Candyss Love.
It's your boy, Brickcitibuddha,
And
her husband.
yes,
And
his wife.
There you go. Some people may not know us just yet.
Yeah. And so we decided to come up with Take Their Mics because
also the host of God Is Me Again podcast.
yes, we are
So
also the host.
If y'all are catching us for the first time via Take Their Mics, make sure y'all double over to the page and also check out our God Is Me Again podcast. It's not a reaction. It's an actual podcast with real conversations from a married couple. So it's a different spin, but you're going to want both.
Yeah. And we wanted to do reaction videos, and this is just the first. The rest of our videos will not have this long intro, but we wanted to do reaction videos because we're in a healing space. And when we speak about healing, it requires a lot of softness because a lot of people have a lot of trauma. But with that being said, while we're being soft and gentle, while my dog is over there lapping up water.
You wait till now to do that.
She lapping up water like she ain't never drunk water ever before.
And she don't even drink water like that.
And so we wanted to do Take Their Mics because we recognize there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of people who have the audacity. There's a lot of people who are bold in what they say, and they loud and they wrong. The blind leading the blind, and the traumatized leading the traumatized. And there's nobody with a healthy I'm not going to say anybody.
Not many.
But those who have the healthier perspectives typically aren't as loud as the ones that have the unhealthy perspectives. So Take Their Mics is for those who have mics, but it might be time to take it away for a little bit.
And I wouldn't even say they're wrong because everybody got different perspectives on life. But like you said, there is a corner of creation that's not being heard. And we are stepping into that position to be able to hold the square for people who may not have platforms like a podcast, to be on things like tonight's conversation. And we've been nice. We've been playing nice. But now it's time for us to take the gloves off about the philosophy, not the people, and just add different perspectives and different vantage points that may not come up on some of these podcasts, that may not come up on some of these stages. And we got the tapestry now to be able to do it with Take Their Mic. So this is no shade. If you end up on Take Your Mic, if you know us, if you don't, it's all love. Your voice still needs to be heard as well. But a large part of the love that's necessary in a brown and black community especially is being able to hold each other to task with respect and with love. Otherwise, we just stay in the same cycles.
Yeah, James Baldwin said, if I love you, I have to make you conscious of the things you may not see. And so we're not coming at anybody. This is not to be messy or anything like that. The intention is to provide healthier perspectives, or the intention is simply to spark thought. We are not here to be agreed with. We're simply here to facilitate conversation and be a conduit to higher perspectives.
I think we're good to go.
All
Let's
right.
step into the ring.
Yeah. So with that said, the first thing we're going to react to is this new viral clip of Cam Newton and Sarah Fontenot.
What up, Cam? What up, Sarah?
Yeah. Much love to Sarah, love to Cam.
Yeah. And we know Sarah, you know, your first iteration of you being on tonight's conversation was you across from Sarah, your first time on them cameras, and you more than held it down on multiple conversations with her. So this is a full circle moment for us to be able to use some of the context and content that she puts out to break it down in this way.
Yeah, we both had viral clips with Sarah, which is so interesting.
Yeah.
The viral clip that you had with Sarah actually is still going viral in many ways. And at some point we'll react to that video. But it was necessary for us to react to this one with her and Cam Newton. So we're not going to hold y'all. We're going to go ahead and get to it.
All right, what we got? And I haven't seen most of this, y'all.
Yeah, this will be his first time seeing it.
If your woman said that I feel, and y'all better not say nothing to nobody, okay? Period.
Exclamation point.
If your woman said, I would feel so much more respected, and I know what other people think doesn't matter. Ultimately, what matters most
You're
is
contradicting yourself.
no. This is
there.
what I'm telling you. I'm saying if I were her, and I said, I know what other people don't think, but I would feel more respected by you if we were married.
I tell you this, baby, you the peak. It don't get higher than you. But I still have responsibilities.
Do you have to let go of those responsibilities?
I would never like you can't do that.
Can't you do both? That's what I'm saying.
That's my baggage.
So why can't you be married with baggage?
No. See, you're saying I'm answering your question when you gave me the scenario. If she comes to you and say, I will feel more respected, my first question will be by who? She would say, by me. I'm giving the confirmation that there's nobody higher than you. You're peak.
And so one of the things that she asked Cam in the earlier clip was, would you marry me? Because I would like to feel more respected by you and more respected by the public. I would feel more respected by you and the public. So Cam is basically saying, why do you care about what the public thinks if you're already totally respected by me?
What about the responsibility piece? From what I'm gathering and what he said about responsibilities, they went to trauma. So it sounds like his responsibilities as far as working through his trauma, and he's spoken before about the fears he's had with if he does go into a union and now everything is on the line. And I can, depending on if they structure prenups and stuff like that, but if I don't got all my ducks in a row as being able to keep this in my pants and do the right thing, I'm not willing to take that leap yet. And I think that correlates to how a lot of men see marriage. You got the aspect of sexual mastery that a lot of them know. They have come into these relationships and they literally fell in love. And when you say that word fall, it's inadvertent, it's unexpected. We just be running the streets for a very long time, and all of a sudden you meet a woman that has your heart, and now it's like, I got to get my ducks in a row. And you got to kind of do that on the field. It's like you building a plane while you're trying to fly it. So you got the sexual mastery piece, you got the financial piece, which obviously Cam got. All he really is worried about at this point is, I don't want to go into wedlock and not be right just yet. So the respect, I think, has to come after the responsibility. And a lot of women will look at that and have said that that's a cop-out, when that's a very real factor for a lot of men. I'm somebody who, by the time I met my wife, I had put in intense work to handle those responsibilities of trauma, sexual mastery, get my finances order, which have continued to blossom as a result of being with my wife. But these are real things that men got to consider, that we're often demonized for and told, well, you should just be ready. We the ones that got to take care of business. We got to be the ones in most cases that got to guide the ship. We the ones that have to heal a lifetime of moving and shaking, thugging and ducking. I never even said thugging and ducking, but we got to figure that out. So when we bring these things to a woman that we are with, they got to understand, we're not saying it's going to guarantee we never go there, but these are things that you got to really appreciate about what a man, especially a black man in a position of power, has to do to get to the point to feel safe in marriage, because it's not built to be safe for us.
I think that's a very valid point, because a lot of women's main rhetoric is come to me healed. And right now you have a man saying, I know myself. I don't have a lot of things in pocket, and there's certain things that I would want to make sure is in pocket. There's things that I'm conscious of that I come with that can be perceived as baggage. So women will say, come to me healed, but the desperation in a woman will say, I can fix you. Come with your baggage. But in the same breath, they'll have an issue with the fact that they have not done all the work necessary to evolve the way that they say they've done all the work to evolve. So I think it also comes down to women having to believe who a man says he is when he says he's that person, as opposed to trying to convince him otherwise.
And then I know we're going to keep moving. One question for you, though, based off our own experience. I know a lot of women will hear him say and look in the camera and say, baby, you the peak, and think he's running game.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel that that is a reality, that a man can truly view you at a peak without wanting to cross that threshold based on what you've experienced with me, I guess? And it's low key kind of a trick question, but go ahead. What you got?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it.
Let's see if you get it.
You're asking, can a man have you as a peak without actually marrying you?
Yes.
For me personally, that's such a trick question.
Mm-hmm. Why?
Because yes, and
that should culminate in some form of matrimony.
In some form, because I think when we use the word marriage, it goes into,
and we're going to get into that too.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't think that there has to be a government documentation to say that you are my peak. But I do think that there has to be some level of a gesture to show what your actual intention is.
And that's why I asked that question, because of course, what we have led to matrimony. You was the peak from damn near the first conversation we had. Like there was something in me that knew you talking to your wife, bro.
Yeah.
And initially it wasn't even a romantic pursuit or nothing like that. It organically unfolded into that. But from the first time I saw you, like I've spoke about on the podcast, there was something there. My subconscious, unconscious mind, my spirit was saying, it's something about this one. And you was already the peak, not just at that juncture in my life. You were the peak of feminine energy in any aspect of what I've ever experienced in my life cycle. So women will hear that and say, it's no way you could be the peak. The peak has to lead to the promise. But a man has to be able to ingratiate himself into the stage of realizing I'm in my peak. I'm with my MJ. I'm with the greatest I'm going to ever have. And a lot of times we are rushed once we advocate or express that, we are rushed to the promise. And there's things that we got to galvanize and downloads that we got to have during that process of realizing I'm with my peak. Then if we don't, we'll mess the promise up.
Yep,
Yeah.
I agree.
I'm not getting married. Then what you would say?
I would ask you, I would say right now in this moment, are you
You're saying, I'm answering your question when you gave me the scenario. If she comes to you and say, I will feel more respected, my first question will be, by who? She would say, by me. I'm giving the confirmation that there's nobody higher than you. You're a peak. Tip of the spear.
right? So what if she
So
says,
it ain't going higher than that.
but what I'm saying is that's how you feel, and that's okay. And I understand how you feel, and I know how you feel because we've talked about it. And also, this is how I feel. I would feel like the peak if I were actually married.
That's cool. Well, I ain't getting married. Now what?
But is that ego or is that heart?
No. Since we want to do scenarios,
Yeah.
I'm not getting married. Then what you would say?
I would ask you, I would say, right now in this moment, are you speaking from a space of protection because I've triggered you in a way? Or are you speaking from a space of you really don't want to marry me?
I'm speaking on how I feel right now.
Okay, so think about it. Then I don't want an answer right now.
Say less.
That's what I would say.
Thank you.
Because I can't bully my man.
I think it's important to acknowledge that's manipulation.
She said it at the end. She said, I can't bully. So what you're suggesting is him being bullied into something he don't want to do. You got it.
Exactly. That's manipulation because when you get to a space of changing your tone of voice and you know what I'm saying? And then you get to a space of, just saying, well, it sounds like you're triggered. You can't give an ultimatum and then police how a person's responds and then tell them that they're now sounding like they're triggered. This entire interview, you can tell Cam went from very calm to, listen, baby girl, let me tell you something. that is a man showing you that he is overstimulated by the fact that you continue to push him on a topic that he's already told you that he's happy about. So the same happens in a relationship where we have women who acknowledge a man has said that they aren't ready to be married. And instead of just accepting that the man isn't ready to be married, they push. And it's like, well, so you don't want to marry me? That's something else that Sarah said in a video. That's also manipulation, because a man saying that he isn't ready to be married doesn't mean that he isn't that he doesn't love you enough to marry you. It means that he is not ready to be married. And so instead of trying to force a man to give you marriage and pushing the topic and giving ultimatums and saying things like, I'm not going to have sex with you until we're married, especially if that's not even your religious belief or you aren't even practicing celibacy, I think you start to get into the realm of manipulation. Whereas you can just date intentionally and choose a man who has a mindset for marriage. I don't understand the purpose of dating a man who's very open about the fact that he has a lot of resistance towards marriage. And then you get into this relationship for a certain amount of time and now you want to convince him to be married, as opposed to just acknowledging who he's already told you he was. There are men out there who are ready for marriage, who have already rearranged their consciousness and their life and their emotions for marriage. I think it says something. I think it says a lot about women who, instead of preparing themselves and creating their energy and their life force and their spiritual maturity and their emotional integrity, instead of curating that within themselves so they can attract the type of man that would actually want to marry them and that they'd want to marry, they rather go towards the man that is the complete opposite and then guilt them into marriage and then make him the bad guy when he doesn't acquiesce. That sounds like a psychosis.
Yeah, and going from the last part of what you said, women love projects. I'm with a married woman. There's always going to be some type of new thing being added to the house, to the kitchen. What you call that stuff up there? The what?
Oh, the herbs.
Not the herbs. The stuff that you wanted to do something with. It's a special.
Backsplash.
I didn't even know what backsplash was, bro. So it's always some type of new project, and it's part of y'all creative force that's satiated every time you get to bring something into fruition. So a lot of women will hear this and see project instead of the person that's being presented to me authentically. Whatever conversations Cam and Jazz is her name, right?
Yes.
Whatever conversations Cam and Jazz may have had about marriage, it ain't just happening now because Sarah brought it up on a podcast. I'm sure these conversations have been happening from the time they realize, oh, it's something here beyond just sexual energy. And we don't know what's going on in their household. According to Cam, every time he's pressured about this or challenged about this, he says the same thing. She good. And we haven't really heard too much from her end on her not being good. She's had moments where she's talked about, the new baby and certain things that people extrapolated out. But we've never heard from the source that her being his peak and the way he loves her right now is not enough for her. So that project piece is big. And then I think on the man's end, as far as the resistance, if I'm already giving you the best of me, if I'm already advocating for the fact that you are my peak in my world, you are my number one person, and you may bring to me what the public got to say, you bring to me the fact that your respect would increase. How could your respect increase any more than me already offering you all of myself? You know what I'm saying? And when you start to peel that apart, you realize what we're really talking about is conceptual. Marriage is a concept. Before the word marriage ever came to be, there were people going their whole lives in a hunter-gatherer phase of humanity and doing their thing together for a lifetime. They didn't know nothing about marriage. Is their connection any less? Me and my wife have spoken about the fact we don't have traditional legal paperwork. Does that make our connection any less? And people will often tell us, it definitely do. Y'all ain't even married. I thought y'all was married. Y'all done pulled the wool over our eyes. And those same people we know will go many life cycles never having a connection this pure, this powerful. The paperwork a lot of times for men stands in the way because we look at it as I'm giving you all of myself and you still saying I need more. And one more thing, the resistance a lot of times is also, if I do put that ring on your finger, are you going to go into a mode of a lethargic space in how you love me. Because a lot of women, their whole life is damn near been competitive of, I got to get the ring and the status that come with that. Well, once you won a championship, once you got the ring, what changes? Are you going to give me the 110% for the rest of our days once you've already crossed that threshold of having that ring on your finger? And we've seen case and case of that. When women, as soon as they get the ring, it's not the same level of love. It's not the same level of intimacy, appreciation, attention to detail. Men have experienced that throughout the history of marriage, and a lot of times that's not factored in.
There is a segment in this video where they speak about, would you rather pick having feelings or a title? And it's based on the feeling of commitment, like staying in the relationship, or a title. And Sarah chose a title. Cam chose a feeling. Sarah said that she felt like feelings fade, and Cam said, and she said a title doesn't. A title tells her exactly how she needs to show up. And Cam was like, but my feeling to stay committed to you, that doesn't change.
Right.
He said, but also if it's real love, no matter what happens, the love may still be there. But I'm going to choose feeling. And I think what happens is a lot of women are addicted to marriage idolatry. And so they talk about making idols of everything, but they've clearly made an idol of marriage. And it comes down to just wanting to have a husband. It comes down to just wanting to be able to flash a ring. It comes down to just wanting to have these big, extravagant weddings, not so much all of the things that go into a marriage. And I think with that marriage idolatry, they actually don't even prioritize love the proper way, which means that they don't even select or have the amount of discernment necessary to choose the right man. Because choosing the right man actually isn't their priority. Choosing the man that's going to give them the wedding that they want is their priority.
Absolutely.
And that's where the marriage idolatry comes in.
Yeah, if I was in a woman's shoes, and I'm in a situation with a brother that thinks like Cam, honestly, I would take 15 years of him trying to figure out what he got to figure out to cross the threshold, as opposed to forcing him into the title, forcing him into the engagement, forcing him into the marriage. Because a lot of men need more time to hatch spiritually, emotionally. I had already did a lot of work to where you showed up. You never had to ask me, what are we? When you moving in? Are you moving to Houston? When we get married? That process unfolded gradually, but still pretty quick, to the degree people was looking at us like, damn, y'all just popped up on my timeline and y'all already going to these lengths. But again, I had did that work. Not every man, and it don't make me bigger or better than anybody else. I've done a lot of intense spiritual work on myself in the position I hold in this life. That may not be Cam's responsibility, but somebody like Cam or brothers like that, they may need more than the 2 years I needed. They may need 5, 7, 10 years to continue to grow and blossom in the love y'all got, and wake up one day a decade from now like, you know what? Nah, I'm ready to do this. And a lot of times that season of a man's development is demonized and is bypassed and is vilified.
I think that's a great point, because if the intention is to marry a man, then you need to choose a man that's already been doing the work.
Exactly.
And I think that's what all of this boils down to, is they aren't selecting properly. If you're selecting properly, you know the man that's already rearranged his consciousness to give you the things that you desire, as opposed to meeting a man that clearly needs self-work and then not understanding why he can't implement marriage because he hasn't fully worked on himself yet. Women have always acknowledged that when a man doesn't have a certain type of money, he doesn't show up as lovingly as he possibly could, or there's more stress that doesn't allow them to have a free-flowing and loving relationship. So if you can acknowledge that about money, why are women not able to acknowledge that about the emotional maturity? Men have to take their time in their emotional maturity instead of trying to force that process, which will always backfire. Just meet that person where they are. Discern if that person has the capacity to show up for you in the way that you would like. And if not, just take what you need and leave and go and find someone else, or wait for this person to evolve.
And we've talked about in life, you got to know what the work is. If you with a brother like Cam and he may not be doing all that internal work, but he's loving you properly. Whatever he's doing, Jazz is still there. Well, all the global ridicule in that household, they are still together, right?
Yeah.
So on that front, he's doing what he's supposed to do. Now, the spiritual work may be happening slow. It may not be happening just yet. And then most of what I've heard Cam say about marriage, he said it to, it wasn't TD Jakes. It was the other elder brother where he was trying to challenge him on why he, and for most of what I gather from Cam, it's not ego. Like most men, it's fear that we package in logic to get across to the world and to our women why we're not ready to get married yet. But at the core, it's a fear wound. If you notice as the woman of that man, the work ain't in continuing to pressure him about marriage. The work is in, well, how can I help this fear that's in my man? Not even for the end goal of him eventually marrying me, but my man obviously has a hole in his heart that has a bunch of fear in it at large outside of what he does with me. Let me step up in my guidance and my feminine emotional leadership and start to help him conquer the wound of fear. We could put the marriage conversation on the back burner as long as he's properly loving me. Let me help him learn how to get past fear in and of itself. And maybe that will open up to him eventually saying, you know what? I ain't scared no more. It's time.
Yeah. And see, but the issue with that is women are like, I'm not your mama. And that's the issue
Right,
because what they don't understand is nobody's going to come to you healed. Everybody is going to have their own things that they're working on, their own fears, their own resistance, their own darkness. And if you don't have the capacity to do that dance with people, if you don't know how far you're willing to go in that dance, which means you don't have your own boundaries within yourself, then you're not going to get anywhere. All relationships with different type of people will require you to have to show up and nurture versions of them so they can become the best parts of themselves. They are going to have to do the same thing for you as well. So it's very emotionally immature to say, I'm not his mama. It's not my job to help him heal, grow, or evolve. Well, then if he takes that same rhetoric and applies it to you, nobody gets anywhere.
Exactly.
So it's not about me not wanting to help a person get to a place. It's about me having enough boundaries to decide how far am I willing to go to get to the end outcome.
And real quick, last thing I'm going to say, and we're going to keep it going because we know the reaction space, you got to keep it going. You just uncovered another piece of the resistance. Most men have never been with a woman that was willing to lead, that was able to lead, but actually also saw her leadership as part of the intimacy of what they share as a union. Women just want to be taken by the hand and guided through life. And yes, that's part of what men got to be able to do in certain aspects. But we're going to talk about it on the podcast soon. You've led me in so many different ways that bolstered my ability to create a safe union for us and a safe partnership. I had already put the ring on your finger, but I'm still learning how to be a better husband. A lot of that is due to not just what I learned as an individual, but your willingness, your ability, and your embracing of the fact, if I'm here, I got to help guide and lead this man too. And a lot of women are not doing that. So we resist because it's all on our shoulders.
Yep. I agree.
Y'all, this is the thing. Y'all think Brock is nice. He's not.
I never said that.
The face said it. This man, if he says no, I've learned in the past, I'm a pusher naturally. And my whole team, they'll tell you.
Yeah.
I will push.
And that's what we acknowledge.
push
She's
him.
pushing Cam in this conversation.
No, I'm just saying I can't.
And you don't push a man to get what you want. You respect where he is or leave it.
Facts.
I don't even know what that means, Cam. I don't even know what that means.
Brock, bro, you a real one, bro.
He is.
He did something that most probably couldn't.
And wouldn't. To be honest.
That's why he got a good girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I received that. Thank you. That was a good cleanup.
Like, if we gonna keep it a buck or we gonna keep
it a buck?
Big. Because I'm like, I'm not the dude that's you can't bully me.
Yeah.
You're not about to sit up here and put me into the corner, baby.
Yeah.
Like, that's not gonna be good for nobody because I got a lot of I be damned in me.
But is it bullying or is it expressing a desire?
Baby, are you happy? Yes or no?
She already said, this is what unbridled feminine energy that has never been put in a position to see itself will do. She is the one that brought up the verbiage of bullying just 2-3 minutes ago. And now when he throws it out there and is responding to that, oh, it's not bullying. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, and that's the aspect of manipulation too.
Right.
It's you just have to be very careful with there's this a podcast where people are like, you don't correct your man, you wait until he understands where he's gone wrong in certain situations. And I understand why that has
there's times for that both ways.
Yeah, I understand why that has upset women. But the other side to that is being pushy. You cannot give ultimatums, bully, and force people into submission just to fulfill a societal program dream of being married. It just doesn't work like that. You are already comfortable with the space of being married because society has already programmed women to get married. Society has done that since we were little girls, to where everybody grows up and dreams of what their dress is going to be and all these different things. There has to be room for the fact that men were not programmed for that. They were actually programmed for the opposite. They were programmed to not want marriage. So when you come in and you start giving these ultimatums and you start being forceful with it, that's why Cam got to the place where I don't want to get married.
Right.
Now what?
Now what?
Because now you start meeting that other side of them that goes into fight or flight. You start meeting that side of men that's like, I have to protect myself because the body is designed to keep you safe, which means once you start making a person feel emotions that they aren't comfortable with or emotions they haven't sat with that long, they have to protect themselves. They put up a whole defense mechanism, and that is going to get you everything that you don't want.
Right.
So it doesn't mean don't express your desire, but it also, you can express your desire, but you cannot force another person into submission just so you can get your desires met.
And when you're trying to do that, we talking masculine energy. When you study most of the martial arts sciences and arts, a lot of them are based on using the inertia and the momentum from the person that's trying to attack you and just redirecting it. If you really in your feminine essence for real, you don't got to push for nothing. If you really are on your square as far as being a quality partner and you have chosen a man who has developed enough to be able to appreciate and reciprocate that, there is no push necessary. And even in her statement about the push, she didn't see, and a lot of women don't see, that when you step into that masculine energy, that yang energy, and you're no longer in receptivity, the man on a subconscious and spiritual level that he may not even be aware of is looking at you like you are the man. And the biggest aspect of matters of the heart, when we talk in marriage, you have now took on a masculine prowess and essence and energy, and you're trying to bully. That's why she used the word, and that's why he's averse to it. You're not going to be the man to me. I'm the man here. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times women don't even see how much they are off-putting in some of these moments with that masculine energy.
Absolutely.
I feel like,
Is you happy?
could I be happier?
What?
That's what I'm
So
saying.
you got to tell me a marriage will make you happier than what you
It
already
would
are?
if I'm telling
That's
you,
valid.
no,
That's a lie.
I'm just saying, hear me out. If I
Hold
was
on.
her, and I'm saying I would feel.
Let's ask you. Are you happier with this guy on your finger? I can't hear. Are you happier with this guy on your finger than you were before?
No.
I ain't gotta say nothing else to that.
More respected because we're already playing husband and wife.
Yeah.
When a person starts saying you will feel more respected, it is now evidence that your respect is coming from other people's perceptions and not how you respect yourself, respect your union, and trust that your man respects you. That is all about outside noise. Because if you know your man respects you, who's making you question that he doesn't? That's the other issue. When we start talking about women and marriage and relationships, a lot of women can't stay happy or get happy because they got too many of their friends in their business. They got too many people from social media and too many people from their families in their business giving unsolicited advice when these people aren't even happily married themselves. They haven't built anything that is conducive to them giving you constructive criticism. And so what women have is a natural insecurity if other women don't want what they have. Women want other women to want their man, want their marriage. And when they see there's any flaws that's out of alignment with it, they start questioning it. And then they start bringing it back to their man. And the man's like, we're good. Ain't you happy? You have everything that you need. But it's that outside perception that's like, no, but I need a ring. Oh, but you need to make this amount of money. And if you don't make this amount of money, then social media says I'm doing it wrong. Women's ability to get into healthy relationships and to hold on to healthy men is limited because they have too many people and too much of social media in their ears.
And with counseling so many couples and men, you know what I often hear from brothers who do eventually pop the question and may have taken a long time to get there or not. I often hear that they are with partners who never pressured them, who never pushed. You being one of them, but you ain't really have to wait that long because I had already did that work. We said that already. But men in these positions like a Cam, if Jazz was the one saying what Sarah is saying, and again, we don't know, it don't sound like it, but let's say she was. How a man receives that is almost like, I'm giving you the top shelf love of what I have to offer, and you saying that's good enough, but you want more. And the more being a title, the status, at that point, the marriage means more than the man. We may not say it, we may not be conscious of it, but as soon as there's an inclination of that, we now feel like we are second-class citizens in our own relationship, and the status of matrimony is what's really important to you. So are you really here for me for real? Because again, if I was a woman, if I was dealing with a Cam and we talking 5-10 years in and there's still been no marriage, but I'm getting everything I need, what's the alternative? I'm gonna go back out here in these streets for another, and we know how difficult it is to find partnership in this day and age. So I'm going to risk not being with this man who has loved me properly for 10 years to go back out here into these streets because he didn't give me the status symbol of the marriage. And I would rather go out here and risk the chance of not finding a man who loves me as much as Cam did, just to have the marriage, the status, and the ring. Men are picking up on this. We just may not be conscious enough to be able to express this. But this is what's going on in Cam's mind and a lot of men.
Yeah, I agree.
So why not just be husband and wife?
Like you keep making this, for everything that you got to say.
Yeah.
It's one of those things I have considered. I am considering.
Okay.
But we're not going to get nowhere if you making, it's almost like saying, hey, write me a letter.
Yeah,
All
don't
right.
mean nothing. Right.
Right.
I get it.
No, that ain't how I operate.
I get it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you be like, oh, he just so stubborn. That's cool.
I don't
not
think
with
you're
you.
stubborn.
You or anybody else. I just know what type of man that I am. My lady, she wants for nothing. She has everything. This is the most stable that she's ever been in her life. She's extremely successful. What she has for herself is what she has for herself. What I have is what she has. And I mean, nobody's complaining. I think the issue comes when everybody gives their 2 cents on a situation that's cemented. You feel what I'm saying? Like, bro, you don't have to be married.
You don't have to be married.
Everybody.
Facts.
If you don't have to be married, then Sarah, why are you spending over an hour on this podcast on the same topic, pushing him to be married?
Right.
That is so odd.
So
to
much
me.
contradiction in it.
It's so much contradiction because he's acknowledged he's happy, but it's like, well, why you not married? And what if she says it like this? And what if it makes her feel respected? It's like, girl, relax. Everybody don't have to be married, and everybody doesn't want to be married. That was also something that she said, is that all women want to be married. And there's women in the comments like, please don't say 99% of women want to be married, because that's just not the case. And even when it came to us, being married wasn't necessarily something you or I wanted. I mean, we didn't even want a relationship. That was our first conversation, is about how much we didn't want a relationship. And marriage is something that God put on your heart. And we had already chose one another, but we chose to get married in a way that we felt was necessary for us to get married. But there's a point that's about to come up that I want to acknowledge.
that was in the Bible wasn't married.
That's true.
The disciples,
Weren't married.
okay. So you mean to tell me in order for me to get to heaven, I got to be married?
That's not what I'm saying.
So we are weaponizing marriage like, bro, you got to get married. You with her, you might as well.
No,
you
that's
might
not
as
what I'm
well,
saying.
you
I'm
might as
not
well.
saying that.
It's
What
like,
I'm
you
saying,
might as well
Well,
be
that's what she
happy.
just said. She
I'm
just said you
living for
might as well.
happiness.
Why
Yes.
not
I'm
get
living
married?
for happiness and
Yes.
peace. I'm living for those things right there.
yeah,
And every single day, it's a challenge.
yeah,
You
Love
might
to
as
me
well.
is not a noun. It's not a person. It's
Yeah.
not a place. It's a thing. It's not that. To me,
It's a
love
verb.
is a verb.
Right.
It's an action.
Yes.
Every single day, I'm choosing you.
yes.
No matter.
That is marriage. You know what?
That's your marriage.
You're right. That's true.
You see what I'm saying?
Brandon, from my perspective, because I believe that marriage comes down to having the willingness to choose this person.
You can have.
Hold on, pause
You
it.
can have commitment.
So she just said what he has is already marriage. So what are we doing here?
Exactly.
And I know we about to get to a clip of the famous lawyer, and he talks about the spectacle of matrimony. But she's saying, and a lot of women like Sarah will say, everything else go around the block, down the corner, through the alleyway, to try to act like what they're advocating for is not the spectacle as opposed to the reality, because everything he just said, she responded with, that's marriage. Then what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Commitment without marriage.
Of course you can,
That's
but
what
there's
I'm
no
saying.
safety in that, especially not
always
for a
safety.
woman.
It's
Because
always safety.
think about it this way.
Go ahead, bust your gun. I already know. Bust your gun, bruh. Talk to these women.
Cam said you can have commitment without marriage, and Sarah said, but there's no safety in that. Now I need to know, okay, so first of all, this is not about marriage then. And I'm so glad she said it, because even when we're on the couch with her in tonight's conversation, a lot of times when people are having dialogue and the dialogue starts to erode my brain cells, I know that we're getting to a place to where the conversation is dumb and stupid
And cyclical.
and it's not making any sense. And so when she continues to speak about money as often as she speaks about money, and she continues to speak about baby mamas and how they have no value, and then she continues to speak about marriage, I'm like, I've always wondered, man, what's underneath that? You know, why does she continue to speak about it in that way? But she just said it because initially she said it was respect. And then she changed
She just
it.
jumped,
We
yeah.
see it's not respect because Cam was like, well, nah, you talking about what other people are saying. I respect you. That's all that matters. But now it's no safety in that. When a person starts speaking about safety, they're unconsciously also speaking about unhealed wounds and trauma. And when a person needs safety, that means that somewhere along the lines, fear is present. And fear and love can't coexist. So you are looking for safety and commitment. That's a survival mechanism. Because the bottom line is love is about radical trust, and really probably trust that don't even make sense a lot of the times on paper. And so when she starts speaking about safety, it's like, well, who are you trying to keep you safe? It sounds like the marriage and having the government license is what she feels like will keep you safe. And I think that's what a lot of women think is when they get married, having that license is what will keep them safe. So that means you want the government to protect you. But in the same breath, I thought don't you trust that your man is going to protect you? That means overall, you just have a sense of not feeling safe. That means when you are entering this relationship, it is to get a need met. It's to be protected, it's to be provided, and it's to have safety. But a government cannot do that for you. That's something that you get from your man in commitment, but a license does not equate commitment. And I think that is something that has to be acknowledged.
And then, I mean, if you are dealing with a person that is still looking for safety through some outside source, they're not ready. If you are dealing with a person who still believes that life is going to present safety to you, They don't understand life at large. Forget talking about having a matrimony or a marriage or hitching your wagon to somebody for the rest of your life. If you haven't done the life work, let's not even say spiritual. If you don't realize ain't no safety in this life thing, you don't get it yet. And to superimpose that responsibility that life does not even present to you. However you see the higher power, God does not afford to us in this human experience. All this shit is nutty. Any day, anything can go any way. And I think her idea, and a lot of women like Sarah, their idea of safety is not in that you're going to be here with me forever. We know there are many different factors that could shift what we have and have had for the past 6-7 years. We understand that. The safety for us is in the freedom to be able to choose different if that should come up. And we've had conversations on this on podcasts where people ripped us both a new one when we talked about if somebody else came along and you felt like that was more conducive to where you were at in that journey, I will offer you the freedom to do that. I would be hurt. But the safety, and I told my wife from very early on, I'm going to keep you free. I didn't say I'm going to keep you safe. I said I'm going to keep you free. And whether that's your ability to choose how you want to live, what you want to do for a living, you want to leave your job, you want to start a new company, you want to put backspace. What is it?
What?
The thing.
Backsplash.
You want to put backsplash on the wall. Hey, do your thing. The only true safety and connection is with that. And if you're banking on the validity of this relationship being based on you being here forever, that means your mind is already extrapolating towards the future. What's going to happen tomorrow? Ain't nothing safe about tomorrow. That means you're also missing what's happening right here in the moment. And in the moment, as a human being, as an individual, as a man, I'm doing everything I could possibly do to keep our little corner of creation as safe as I possibly can, while still understanding life could life at any given moment. And if it does, I got the freedom to allow life to life. You got the freedom to allow life to life. So it ain't just the safety aspect, it's the perception, a lot of women's perception of what safety is.
Yeah, and I think too, when women speak about the safety and commitment, having the marriage license, I think it also boils down into making sure that they'll be taken care of financially when the relationship ends.
Talk about it.
That's really what they're talking about, is I want to make sure that if this relationship ends, I still will be financially compensated.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other part of that is the safety in the marriage license is almost like evidence that you won't leave. And so that means that you want the government to hold a person accountable to not being able to leave you.
That means you don't trust the individual.
That means you don't trust them. And that's possession. To need an outside entity to hold paperwork and make it difficult for y'all to detach and go y'all separate ways. That is not a spiritual, that is not a consecrated, that a relationship or marriage, that is really all fear. And I think that's interesting too, because we're going to get into a clip where Sarah's her now husband acknowledged that he doesn't believe in license. He doesn't believe in marriage license.
Uh-oh.
So
You got the clip full, huh? Let's talk about it. I know his name Brock. What you got to say, Brock?
Let's see. Hold on.
You done did your research.
I did, and it's important as well, because these conversations, if you aren't having the full conversation, which it sounds like Cam was trying to get her to have, if you aren't giving all the details, then you're kind of leading people to come up with their own wrong conclusions, which is, oh, okay, I need to be married. I need to have paperwork. And if you don't even have paperwork, or you have a spouse that doesn't believe in paperwork, it's important for you to acknowledge that so you can give people the full spectrum of your idea and not mislead them.
But yeah, so much of the podcast space exists in sound bites, and you very seldom will get more context, more nuance to why people are saying what they're saying, to how they're saying what they're saying, to the truth behind what they're saying. So I think it's important to include things like that you're about to bring up. I haven't seen the whole clip, but we've had conversations on it, to be able to paint the full picture, because people are tailoring their lives. based off their favorite podcast or their favorite person that comes down their timeline every day. And when they don't see the cracks in the armor, when they don't see the nooks and crannies of the subconscious and how it spills out through the conversations like what we're about to bring up, they will advocate for, in their world, this is how it's supposed to be. And then they'll go tell everybody else. Now you got this army of minions based off sound bites that don't really function in reality in the way that you think it does.
I'm just gonna assume 9 times out of 10.
You got shut it up, Shun.
Okay,
You
so
gotta shut it up.
this is a podcast that Sarah's husband was on, and this was recorded in May of last year. They weren't. I don't know if they were together. I don't know if they were
According
together.
to her time frame, she said 3 years.
Right. So this was posted last year, I think around May or something like that. And Brock is just speaking hypothetically, if he was to get married, what that would look like, what their prenup would look like, money, things like that. When she first introduced Brock to everybody, I was like, oh, okay, let me see what his page looks like. And I looked at his page and there were clips from this podcast that he was tagged in. But a few weeks, maybe a month later, they were gone. And so I was just listening on Spotify when I recognized those clips weren't there anymore. Some of them are, but the main ones aren't. And so, but the reason why it's important to share this part is not to be messy. It's to showcase the contradictory rhetoric that is misguiding people and making them think what one person says is the whole way to be. Where she spent an hour trying to convince Cam to get married, and Brock believes the same things that Cam believes.
no
Cam
doubt.
believes in prenups.
Or did.
Right, or did.
Right.
Brock believes in prenups. You know, in some ways, Cam is more generous than Brock said that he would be generous after a marriage ends. I think it's very important to show the totality of what's really happening and not just like what Cam said, this falsetto of beautiful
Sound bites.
you know, sound bites and Disney pictures.
Yeah.
Probably gonna be making a lot more than my wife,
99 times.
right? And so I would say my thoughts on marriage, like, I do believe in like prenups. I do believe in you know, working out the future.
Something I do think is important to acknowledge is Brock said he believes in prenups. Sarah acknowledged that they did get a prenup. I'm curious, and what is the intention in telling women about how much a man should make to be entertained, to entertain him? When if you sign a prenup, you're not getting none of that no way. You know what I'm saying? If you sign a prenup, obviously he may still take care of you in certain aspects, but if the intention is also safety, and we acknowledge that most women are looking at safety as you won't cheat on them, you won't leave them, or when the relationship is over, they're going to get all of the financial compensation. If a person is acknowledging prenups, then we really shouldn't be talking about another person's income. If they're able to provide for themselves, provide for their family, that's really all that matters.
I mean, but and maybe in defense of Sarah on that, or women that think like this, I may just be banking on being able to follow your financial leadership while we're together. And if we're not, I don't want any of your money. You know what I'm saying? So that could be a different perspective too.
And that's fair.
Yeah.
What you see your relationship in. Like, I believe marriages should have an end date. Like, I don't think marriages are forever.
Really?
Yeah.
So what are you giving, like a 5-year contract? What are we signing?
I'm thinking like, I always reference it like to like
The sales
sports.
contract.
Not sales contract, but like sports.
Okay.
So it's like the NBA.
You want to trade them, huh?
Hey, you might need to trade, but that's not what I was getting at. I'm like, it's like the NBA, right? You got the player association, then you got the owners, right? And then you got the agreement between them and your collective bargaining agreement, right? And it typically goes 10 years,
Okay.
right? And then so you got your lawyers. Let's just say you the players association. I'm the owner.
Okay.
You get your lawyers and you negotiate how you see the 10 years going. I'm gonna get my lawyers and I'm gonna see how I see the 10 years going. Then we get together and we see what can work out, what can't work out, what we need to add, what we need to subtract, and then we come up with this collective bargaining agreement. That's our marriage. It ain't got nothing to do with the government. It ain't got nothing to do with nobody but us. Like the whole marriage certificate thing, I think that's played out. Like, what's the point of the government having their arm in our marriage? Like, it's just supposed to be me, you, and God, holy matrimony. That's what it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be a square.
Right.
It's not supposed to be me, you, the government, and God. It's not supposed to be a square. It's just supposed to be a triangle.
Okay.
And that's how I feel it is. So if we do need some type of paperwork, you need some type of power of attorney. If I die, what's going to happen? This contract is going to take care of all of that. This collective bargaining agreement. And it does have an end date. And let's just say it's 10 years.
What if it's like we're 9.5 years in, now it's time to renegotiate?
It's about 9.
Contract? 9.
At 9 years, you got a year to renegotiate or split ways. It's not working out.
You were really transactional with everything. So it's like you were literally living that business.
I don't even think it's transactional. I just think it's smart. I just think and marriage is definitely a business. Like, I don't care what you say. A lot of people say, "Oh man, it's not a business, it's about love." Whatever. If that's how you think, you setting yourself up for failure. It's a business.
Yeah.
And you need to look at it as a business. And especially how, marriages go nowadays, marriages is like dating nowadays. Like,
literally.
People, you should just stay dating because you ain't last nothing but a year or whatever the case is. So, like, everybody knows the statistics. It's a lot of podcasts and people got little clips that go viral about whatever, the statistics. Like, everybody know marriages just typically don't work out. So you better have some type of contract. Like I said, collective bargaining agreement. That's what I think. And at that year 5 or that year 9 or whatever, you doing a 5-year contract, 10-year contract, whatever it is, we renegotiate. Now,
I think if a girl,
let me say first, right? There's actually a lot of wisdom in what he just said.
I don't think there's anything wrong with anything.
And a lot of our relationship functions in the same way, but I do see the divergence. Where women are advocating for women that express what Sarah expresses. They're advocating for safety going in and during. Men feel naked and vulnerable as far as if this should end. How many different instances have we seen of men being financially, emotionally, familially, childrenly, right? Being eviscerated when it's time to go our separate ways. And if you're going by the law of averages, more than half of marriages do fail. I think I'm not going to throw out no crazy percentage, but I know within the first 5 years, a lot of marriages end up failing. So it's kind of in the same ballpark as what we do as far as allowing that safety and the freedom for if you feel the need to go a different way and or vice versa. And it's funny, like when we say that, people think we're kind of leaving ourselves and out. And I talked to you about that the other day in the Smith system. It's when I was still driving for a living. It was one of the main principles and precepts that would keep you safe in your vehicle. And one of the main ones was leave yourself and out. So when you're in the car, you got to make sure, and I'm a stickler for this. Anybody I'm in the car with, I make sure they do the same thing. You leave yourself at least 2 car lengths in front of you, at least 2 car lengths behind you. And if you can, you try not to ride alongside anybody. So you have this protective bubble around you to, if you got to maneuver, you got to do something. Hey, I can do what I got to do. People will judge us for not having governmental paperwork that oftentimes gets in the way of the split process and the spirituality that can happen in that. If me and Candyss were ever to have to go separate ways, we ain't got to dig through no paperwork. We ain't got to spend that. We already done spent, most people, $150,000, $200,000 on the marriage. We done spent millions of dollars in the 5-10 years we've been married. Now we got to spend that same amount of money and allow a government entity to step in and tell us how we are supposed to go our separate ways, as opposed to having the autonomy of being adults and human beings that went through a matrimony, been through some shit, and now we on the other end of that, and just being able to split. We can't even do that when we're ready to. So we are both with him on that. We just took the paperwork out because I don't even need the safety of knowing your true north, knowing your heart, knowing your spirit. And even in the potential of separation, I know you would still hold my well-being at highest regard, and I would do the same thing for you. So I don't even need the safety of we got to put things in order financially. It don't even got to be that, because I know who you are as a person, and I'm going to always be able to understand my wife is going to have, if she's no longer my wife, she's going to have my best interest at heart, because our connection is too firm regardless of how it goes.
Yeah, and I actually like what Brock said, and I also see where they are both completely on different pages, because the way Sarah is speaking about marriage is in a way of, you know, together forever, the safety in having the marriage license, and Brock is like, no, what we create together is that safety. And so I think also what women are afraid of is not having their person forever. And the bottom line is relationships are vehicles that take you to your next level of evolution and growth. So you're not supposed to be in a relationship forever unless that's what God has ordained.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times people are on their second and third marriage, not because they are necessarily irresponsible, but because there are certain lessons they were supposed to learn from one person. There's certain lessons they were supposed to learn from another. And this is what the purpose of relationships are. We're supposed to gather what we need and what their souls have taught us, implement them so we can continue evolving. The safety is knowing that no matter what happens in our relationship, even if we go separate ways, I trust that what God has ordained for me to learn through this interaction, I will not only learn it, I will implement it and becoming better. If your safety is in money, if your safety is in a marriage license, and if your safety is in having the knowing that a person will stay, you're going to always set yourself up for failure, because true love is saying that I will love you if you choose to stay, and I will love you with grace if you choose to leave. That is total surrender. That's total love without stipulations. It's total love without a marriage license. It's pure freedom that acknowledges whether this works out or not, I'm still going to love you. And I think that's the part of relationships that women don't really give themselves permission to work on. Their nervous system, to a large degree, isn't equipped to fall in love with someone and then have their dream wedding with someone and a dream marriage, and then also accept the reality that it may not last forever. And that's just the reality of relationships.
And that last piece to what you said, if the status symbol of matrimony and the ring and the wedding is to let the world know I did it, I accomplished it, right? The greatest fear you're going to have as a woman is the OPP that's on the other side of that failing. And the whole world and all your girlfriends and your coworkers get to now have those conversations about you. So no woman wants to be in that space. But according to what Brock was saying, he has the contract in place, right? 5 years, 10 years, whatever he said. And it's a collective bargaining agreement that we'll renegotiate when it's time, if we make it that far. You know what our version of that is? When I wake up some days, or you wake up some days, and I look you in your eyes and I say, baby, you still want this? You still want me?
Yeah.
Right? And we don't be playing when we say that.
Yeah.
Now, I know that we have never left our heaven of our life together. But even in the heaven, there is no assumptive arrogance that who I am and what I provide is still what you need for this season and this phase of your life. At any moment, God could say, nope, I need you to go left. I need you to go 90 degrees to the right. And not only do I have respect for your life, I have respect for how the higher power works through our lives. And in a minute's notice, you got to do something else. And outside of that, the assumptive arrogance, I don't want you to give me your love based on what I've done yesterday, what I've done in the past. I want to be able to earn you every day. I want to be able to earn your heart every day. And without those questions, you still want this? You still want me? A lot of times that turns into bigger conversations of what I am doing right. Why you do still choose me and vice versa. Why you do still appreciate our connection. And in the moments when we getting into the shit and we having our moments, both sides of that are still teaching me how to go to higher and higher levels of earning your heart every single day, as opposed to, we got this contract, you got that ring on your finger, I know whatever I'm giving you supposed to be enough. It ain't that, and that keeps me on my toes. That keeps me with a sense of urgency to want to go deeper into how I can love you more.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, because I saw this in the comment section, they were saying, "Oh, so you just want to be able to leave when you want," and I think that that's kind of disrespectful to the real intention of leaving and out. And I think what it boils down to is when you are asking me, do you still want this? Do you still want me? It's respecting my freedom. It's respecting my heart. It's respecting how I may have changed, how I may have evolved. So in the clip where he's saying a relationship should be reevaluated every 10 years, I don't see anything wrong with that, because what he's acknowledging is you may change, you may evolve, I may change, I may evolve, and with that, let me check in to see if this is what you still want. And I think when people are looking for safety in marriage, they're looking for safety in this marriage license, they are negating the fact that you change.
Right.
They're negating that the fact that
Right.
they will change, and they're completely throwing what is realistic out of the window for the fairy tale of we'll be together forever. And one, it may not be what God wanted. And this is where we start getting into the murky place of the Bible. If you still are living to where everything is in accordance with the Bible, I'm just going to say make sure everything is in accordance
Right.
with the Bible.
Right.
Outside of that, because we are not speaking about what's in accordance with the Bible, we're speaking about what resonates and what aligns with the God of our own understanding and what aligns with our spirit. You have to acknowledge that there may be moments where this relationship or this marriage was necessary in this phase of your life. But 10 years later, that may not be the space that you're ordained to stay a part of. It may be necessary for you to pivot. So I think it's very interesting that Sarah is promoting this big, extravagant idea of being married and romanticizing marriage. And like I said, marriage idolatry, where her husband has this very grounded, realistic thought process of, hey, I know you want to be together forever, but that's just not the reality of how things could possibly turn out.
Earl wants to marry Brock. This is what you got to do. You got to have a very business mindset, because I don't see this being no romantic feeling stuff here.
No, it sound more serious than it really is. It's basically just saying, hey, we're gonna pick a time where we're gonna revisit everything and talk about everything.
Yeah.
Because in that time, whether, like I said, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, a lot of things happen.
Yeah.
Houses are bought, children are had, whatever. Are you getting what you want out of this relationship? We're gonna
That's so
talk
fair.
about this
Yeah.
in a formal way. The way I am about like how I want to structure like stuff in the beginning,
Yeah.
I feel like is beneficial to the woman.
Yeah.
Really too. Because like I said, I'm most likely gonna be the breadwinner. And let's just say she have kids, she halt her career, whatever the case is, and it don't work out, right? Let's just say something it don't work out
Yeah.
for some reason, right? And then you don't know your future at that point. She's hadn't been working. Like, it's like, how do you protect yourself as a woman? That's how you protect in the beginning. Like, I feel like you need to negotiate this stuff up front, because I'm way more nice when I love you.
Right, because when I don't.
Right. You don't want to do this at the end and
Yeah.
like hope have a change of heart. Like, if we at this point where we breaking up and you trying to like get what you can, no, you need to be thinking about this at the beginning. Like, I love you at this point, so I'll put something in writing. Something nice, like, hey, for every year or whatever the case is, or for every child or whatever the case is, I'm more likely to put that out there when I'm deeply in love with you that I want to get married than at the end when we bumping heads in courtrooms and all that stuff. Like, and now all of a sudden you saying, why don't you loosen up here, loosen up there? Because I'm tight over here. Like, I'm like structure wise, I believe in, owning nothing and controlling everything. Like, so it's not like you about to just feel like you gonna 50-50 me getting out of a marriage. Like, it ain't gonna happen, So it's more beneficial to you to like say, hey, this is where if we do get to that point, this is what I need to be set up so I can move on with my life and be. And
When we speak about safety, that's actually scary to me. That don't make me feel safe.
That's what I got from it. I understand what he's saying,
I do too.
but it's almost like my approach to love is so fickle that I got to protect you from the future version of myself should we split up.
So my thing is, when Sarah's on the couch with Cam and she's just pushing marriage, and talking about safety, this is a person who's acknowledging that at the end, I can't promise your safety with me.
Flat out.
So it's so contradictory where it just cannot not be acknowledged, because at the end of the relationship, that's typically when you find out who a person really is. And Cam asked her, have you seen his darkness? And she's like, yeah, I've seen his darkness. And he's like, 6 months? Y'all been married 6 months? She's like, but we've been knowing each other for 3 years. And she doubled down on being able to see his darkness. But what he just said points to what I've witnessed a lot in my clients, is there are aspects of people that you will never meet until the circumstances trigger that person to rise to the surface. And what Brock is saying, I know who I have the capacity to become. If you want certain things out of me, yes, better ask for it now. But when you are on a couch on a big viral platform and you're like promoting this safety that comes with marriage, but then we get to actually see the dichotomy of how men actually think in certain moments, that's not safety. That's self-preservation. And that's what people go
disguised as love.
So why would a person want, like, even with Brock saying that, why would a person want to get married with a license knowing that when the thing ends, we can both potentially become completely different people? And then the courts get involved, numbers, money, fees, all of that gets involved. Whereas when you just respect your union for what it is, and if things ever sour, y'all can just go y'all separate ways and you don't have to cut through all of that red tape. To me, that feels a lot more safe than hoping the relationship never ends and then it does end and you got to figure out who that person's going to become.
And then in reference to, we didn't watch it, but the point you just brought up about Sarah and Cam going back and forth about the darkness piece and them only being married the 6 months, and you just referenced, there are multiple phases of darkness being able to unfold. When you unequivocally say, I've seen his darkness, you don't understand that there was friendship darkness that you had to figure out. There's boyfriend, girlfriend darkness that a lot of times the mask and the facade is still up. So you're not even really seeing those levels of darkness. You'll get into the matrimony when all the pressure comes off and now the real person comes up. And you got to realize their darkness is something that's going to continue to unfold for the rest of our lives together. This ain't something I can say in 6 months unequivocally, oh, I've seen it. No. And if you have seen it, you don't realize you saw the branch. You didn't realize it was a whole forest behind that branch, and that's going to take the rest of your lives. One of my wife, not my wives.
I was about to say it.
Let me get it together, right? But one of my wife's darkness or shadow has been the wound of not being chosen. It was maybe 3 years into our marriage where I realized not just that was a part of her darkness, but that was something I needed to start to figure out and master how to contribute a safe space for. And we talked about it on the previous podcast, but I remember us being in that room and that chosen wound had come up many times. But it was a moment where I saw how I could help you start to deconstruct it. And you was upset, and then it turned into tears. And then as I was talking, you also saw what I saw. I became a clear bipartisan mirror and reflection for you to say, oh, this is not that. Even though I have validity in what I'm saying right now, this is not a matter of my husband not choosing me. There's never been a time where he didn't choose me, but we was 3 years into marriage, almost 4 or 5 years into our relationship together, for me to even see that and how I could contribute to that on my end, my mother wounds, my lack of affection, my being blamed for so many different things that were not valid or viable about me, and how I had the propensity to over explain, to try to prove myself, to go the extra mile when you wasn't even asking for none of that. These are things that gradually unfold, and there's no way in 6 months of marriage shadow you're going to be able to see that about another person. And what Brock was saying, his understanding of the fact that my love is so maybe immature, it's so fickle, that if we get to that point where we ain't vibing on a relationship level, I don't like you to the degree that I'm no longer going to protect you. I've never, and I'm not saying protect you financially for the rest of your life, but I've never loved in a way that was so fragile and so fickle that I was not able to maintain wanting the best for you. Even the other day, and if y'all know me, y'all know my story, Daddy Issues, out right now, one of my songs on my album. At this point, I've talked ad nauseum about what I've gone through with my son's mother, right? Y'all can watch that on other pods. Even just the other day, I was at one of my little spots in Houston. I was meditating. I got the idea to just record some random footage of just me in my pocket. And the idea came, bro, send love to certain people that you may have issues with. She was one of those people that in my meditative state, I was sending love from my heart to. She done put me through the ringer in so many different ways based off my choice to be with her when I was with her. So I still got to take accountability. But I'm still at a point where my love has not wavered. It's in a completely different form, but I'm still able to send waves of protection she may not ever even notice or feel. If you are with a person, if you're feeling somebody out who has not gotten to that level of, like Christians say, agape love, unconditional love, you always want to talk it, but when it comes down to it, are you capable of it? Brock in that clip was literally having the self-awareness to say, look, as soon as this run out, it's up. So you better protect yourself right now. We're not doing this investigation on the front end.
Yeah, I agree. And I think with that also the disrespect of spiritual marriages as opposed to
Absolutely.
legal marriage.
Absolutely.
And with the spiritual marriage, yes, there is a little bit more freedom because you have the capacity to leave when you feel called to leave. But I feel like that is the real sacred aspect of not having the government involved, because when God puts it on my heart that it's time to pivot, I get to really feel into what that looks like. And if. Right, if. And I'm using myself, but I'm not speaking about myself because I ain't going nowhere.
Chops, yeah.
But if a person puts it on their heart, if God puts it on a person's heart to leave or to change their mind or to just sit with something, they have the freedom to do that. And it may not even look like leaving forever. It may look like some of these women when they go get an apartment for a year because they just need to explore life by themselves, not date other people, but just feel like what it's like to be back in their own personal space. There's room for that. And I think what happens in marriages or with the licensing, a lot of men get to a place to where they start to feel claustrophobic and they don't feel like there's room for them to just be a man, because relationships and being with women and having kids, it does come with so much responsibility. But when you attach the government to that, it comes with a lot of fear, because we just worked really hard. And I know that a lot of times when this shit ends, you get to take half, if not more, of everything that we've earned. Whereas when it's time to just separate and go your separate ways, there's not the added pressure of, oh, you about to try to get me. And when a person feels like you about to try to get them, you can always count on that version of them that is the protector surfacing. And most likely that version you have never met before, which means you don't know the lengths that they'll go. You don't know how well they've rearranged their consciousness to be comfortable in darkness. And this is where we see a lot of women and men, when a relationship ends, they become cold, they become mean, hateful, spiteful. And you're like, where did this come from? I've never seen this side of you before, because you've really never triggered this version to surface before. when a marriage doesn't really hold a lot of assets in legal form with marriage licensing, that level of pressure at the end doesn't really have to surface. People can feel free and just flowing separately.
And as you were saying that, the word that came to mind, I know we about to get to the last clip. We'll probably cut this up into 2 parts and then put a lot of different clips from it out. But the word that was coming to mind is a football term called encroachment. And it's an actual word too. And encroachment, let me get the actual definition. What we got? My bad. Okay. Encroachment is intrusion on a person's territory, rights, etc. Right? Now in football, if there's encroachment, that means you crossed the line before you were supposed to. And there's a penalty for that. Y'all got to go back 5 yards at least. If you get multiple encroachments, the penalties get even heavier. There is no real penalty for how men are encroached on our belief, how we see love, how we see connection. And from what he just doled out, maybe some of that did hold up. But for them to be married, a lot of that had to shift. Right? So there's encroachment on our belief system that even shows up in real. I was counseling a brother the other day, and we've experienced this at certain points. Even just how much stuff ends up in a house with 2 people that are together. When a woman is got these projects, got the backspace, right? Backsplash or whatever.
Backsplash. Now you got me saying it the wrong way.
Got the backspace, right? But all this creative force will turn into physical fruition and objects taking up space in the household. It was to the point wifey had to get a storage unit a couple years ago. And he was talking about he loves her, he loves his space, but he just feels so encroached on with the objects. He feels so encroached on the mandate that anytime she wants to have a conversation, he should be ready to do so. He even felt encroached on by her loudness when they would even talk. And it's so many different ways that women don't realize. If you got to do all this pushing, all this encroaching, you may get the man to sign up for what it is you're asking for, but you're not getting that man in his true state. You're not getting him in his most authentic self. And at a certain point, even if he says, okay, I'm going to adjust myself, I'm going to squeeze into this little corner of how you see the world, eventually he's going to need to do this. And a lot of times that's going to look like the divorce. It's going to look like the separation, infidelity, stepping out, getting cold, shutting down, not wanting to come in the crib when he park in front because, oh my God, I got to go in here again. I got to go in this box. So you may win the game. You may get the ring, you may get the matrimony, but is it with the actual man that he truly is outside of your encroachment?
Yeah, and I think the other part of that too is when that man shows up, he's gonna always at some point go back to who he really is.
Absolutely.
And women think, oh, I got you to marry me. Yeah, but but then he goes back to the fact that he may not have wanted to be married that quickly, and then resentment turns.
Right, no doubt.
So all of that has to be acknowledged.
Okay. So our last clip?
Yep.
Can you predict someone's divorce by their wedding? I believe that sometimes the bigger the wedding, the more likely the divorce. That's been my experience. I have done, and I happen to be in the high net worth space, so of course a lot of my people have a lot of money, so they had big weddings. But I have found that the bigger the ring, the bigger the wedding spectacle, the more likely the divorce, in my experience. Because there is something extremely performative about a wedding. And there's also something extremely narcissistic about a wedding. Like, if you break down like the role of a bride in a traditional wedding, meaning its current iteration, it's an unbelievably narcissistic pursuit for a woman. Like, we're going to do an engagement, which is you're going to give me a stone of tremendous value that I'm going to wear as a public display of the fact that I am now engaged in this commitment. And then I'm going to put that on social media. And then we're going to have an engagement party. So that's party one. Okay. Then we're going to have, all of these activities around planning this singular day where I'm going to be the center of attention, right? And everything's going to be structured around me. And then I'm going to have a bachelorette party, party number 2. Then we're going to have a rehearsal dinner, party number 3. Then we're going to have the wedding, party number 4, right? And wedding reception, if you consider that part of the same. Then we're going to have a post-wedding brunch usually the next day, right? And then we're going to have a honeymoon, which is basically like a week of partying over the fact that we're at 6 parties now, 7 parties, Like, and then by the way, if we're doing it, then we're going to have a baby shower. Then we're going to have a bit like, oh, I forgot the bridal shower, by the way. I forgot the bridal shower. I left that out. I said bachelorette party, but I didn't do bridal shower. So we're up to 7 parties for that.
Good grief.
If this is really important to you, you're telling me a lot about yourself. You're telling me how important being the center of attention is to you and how much this performative thing is to you. You know, when all of the money and time that was spent. Now, by the way, I'm not pissing on weddings. Like, I think having a wedding's great.
Yeah.
Like, I think if the first time you get everybody you love in the same room as your funeral, you're an idiot. Like, I think you should celebrate. Like, I love this person. They love me. We found each other. How improbable was that? 8 billion people in the world. We found each other. You know, have a party, take some pictures, have some drinks, do the dance, do the whole thing. It's great, man. Eat some pigs in blankets. Love it. But we've turned it into just a spectacle. I mean, the wedding industrial complex, man, it's a trillion dollar industry. It's insane. It's insane. And again, catastrophically fails more than 50% of the time. But they don't tell you that part.
Do people often divorce because of their wedding?
Well, I mean, technically everyone divorces because of their wedding.
Yeah, that's
if they
fair.
don't get married, they wouldn't be getting divorced. But no, I've not seen people that have a bad experience at the wedding and then immediately get divorced. I've seen like marriages that only lasted like a couple of weeks.
That was a really dumb question for me because I have this assumption in my head that if I would get married, I would get married at court and then do the wedding. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's value to that. I think a lot of people actually do that. Like, because, you know, part of the paperwork you have to fill out when you do a divorce is a certificate of dissolution of marriage. And you have to lay out the actual date of the civil marriage and then the date of what's called the solemnization ceremony or like the wedding itself. And so you often see that there's a tremendous difference between the two. Like the people got legally married months before so they could get on each other's health insurance or whatever other reason. And then they did the party and the performance of it a couple months later.
And for context, those who may have never seen him, I don't know his actual name. I don't know if it's up there, but he's an extremely famous lawyer, and he has a lot of dialogue about what he's seen being, I think, a divorce lawyer.
Yeah,
how many different couples he's worked with. He's had a lot of wisdom. Check him out as well. But that was crazy.
Right. And he just pointed to when the bigger the wedding, the more likely of the divorce. Based on his experience, that's what he said. And I think what that ties into is the programming. Women are getting married because we've been programmed to desire that since we were younger. We've been programmed to look for the dress. We've been programmed to see it as a status symbol when you have a ring on your finger. And I told the story on one of our last podcasts. I had a ex-boyfriend that I dated, and he cheated with his ex. And she didn't like me for anything. Like I said, she used to call my phone playing that Tony Braxton song. Are you with it? Do you know I've been with him? Whatever that Tony Braxton song was. And so years later, I saw that she married someone that I went to school with. Okay. And I congratulated her. And she commented and she said, ha ha, that's why I got a ring and you don't. That's why I'm a wife and you not. And when she said that, I was like, oh, you think you better than me.
Little did she know.
Right. And you think you better than me. And what it pointed out to is women see rings as status symbols. They see weddings as spectacles and activities for people to come and be able to see, can y'all see I've finally been chosen? To them, the bigger the wedding is evidence that the man really loves them and cherishes them.
And he has status and the means to do all that.
And they want a person to come in and see how much my man loves me, see how much my man cherishes me, see how much my man wants me to have the wedding of my dreams. And with that, because the marriage is the focus, marriage idolatry, they put the marriage on a pedestal and they aren't even focusing on what's happening underneath. They aren't even focusing on what the man is doing, his emotional maturity, his spiritual maturity. And that's how you get people who are married 10 plus years come into tonight's conversation asking questions like, should I leave my husband or should I stay? He's not changing. He's not evolving. It's because you were so focused on getting a ring. You were so focused on having this big extravagant wedding that you weren't actually paying attention to the core of who the man was that you were marrying.
And what I would say to what you said and what the lawyer was saying, the show that popped in my head, I don't know if it's out no more, but Bridezilla. And we saw, you know, wife after wife, woman after woman go on that show and just go ape. Now, I'm not saying all women are that extreme, but what he did say that kind of popped in my head, like if I was still out here on the scene and I found somebody and we're going to do the traditional wedding and all that, if I was a man and I heard my wife to be at any point in the process say, this is my day, I'll probably be done. Or we're going to at least have to have some conversations, because the wedding ceremony, we forget that word ceremony is attached. It's probably the most widely, globally, socially acceptable and used of all spiritual ceremonies. But it is a ceremony, a very powerful one. If you know how much it takes to curate a ceremonial space, from ayahuasca journeys you've done, from you setting up ceremony at our retreats and stuff like that, everything, every little meticulous detail matters. If we are going into a portal of us, and the day we're going to have a ceremony, you got 3 to 6 months to a year leading into that with the philosophy of this is about me, Houston, we got a problem. And this is something that women say, not just jokingly, they mean that. And this is what turns into that bridezilla energy. So everything he just said was on point. And that term, the wedding, you know, I talk a lot about the prison industry complex and what comes with that. The wedding industry complex and how much other people are involved in that portal of us, and how much we got to shell out to other people to make sure our day is right. It's just so many things that have the potential to be convoluted on a day like that.
Yeah, I agree. And my thing is, I don't have an issue with people having weddings.
Nah, not at all.
Not even big extravagant weddings.
We thought about it.
Yeah. And it would, and when we thought about it,
It was for family.
It was for family.
Because they wanted it.
It was because our family really couldn't accept or come to grips with the fact that we had a ceremony and it was only for us. Mm-hmm. Because they also have been programmed that when your children get married, that they are supposed to be there, and the father is supposed to give you away, and we chose to do it on our own. And I think a wedding is beautiful. I think what sullies the wedding that forces them to end in divorce is the fact that there's no intentionality before the wedding. Because when you have really practiced the intuitive discernment of choosing a man or woman that God has ordained you to be with, that means that you have sat with them. You've asked the questions about leadership. You've asked the questions about finances. You've asked what support looks like for you. How can I show up for you? How can I honor you? You have assessed their emotional maturity. Y'all have gone to therapy together. Y'all have ironed out the childhood issues. Y'all have ironed out the emotional trauma. Y'all have made sure that the narratives of suffering from your past don't bleed into your present reality. You've acknowledged the wounds and the traumas of the past so they don't manifest in your behaviors and ruin what you have. When you've done the proper work beforehand, I think then you have given yourself the privilege of being able to have the wedding of your dreams. But when you have not done that, there's a disingenuous lack of authenticity that comes with just wanting to be seen, just wanting to be acknowledged, and just wanting the status of having a big wedding, as opposed to a celebration of the fact that y'all have just joined in ceremony. A wedding is a sacred space. And what I've learned is most of the time when women advocate for these big weddings, they don't even remember what happened. Every person I've ever asked that have spent $50,000 to $100,000 on their wedding, they all have said, don't do it. I don't even remember what happened. They all have said, save that money and do something else that you would really like to do with your partner. So I don't want to show this clip and make people think that we are downing weddings. I think weddings are really beautiful, but I think that they are only beautiful when both couples have intentionally done the work.
Yeah, and then this is the last thing I'm gonna say. We can end it, but not just the "this is my day" philosophy going into that portal. The 3 to 6 months to year and a half of stress that goes into making sure you have the perfect your day or our day, if you perceive it like that. All of that's going into the portal to the first step y'all are officially taking towards the rest of y'all lives together. And then as I was listening to you, I think one of the things women got to be able to investigate, if you with a man, that you feel trustworthy of to be able to keep you free in whatever ways, but you want to have a life with. You want to go to that marriage space with him. He got to be able to have the divine intuition and enough I don't give a fuck in his system to have bypassed OPP, other people's perceptions, because none of that stuff even came in my mind. Oh, I'm supposed to ask your mom, am I allowed to do this? I'm supposed to have a certain amount. Like my wife still got my original ring on right here. You know, it was a little pretty penny for what I could afford at that time. You know, it's a green amethyst. It's not, this is the John, but it's still a lot of energy in this one. But I wasn't asking for nobody else's permission or how God influenced me to flex on when I decided to do it, how I decided to do it. And if we want to talk all this financial stuff, at that time, I wasn't as financially abundant as I am now, largely due to the love that we have shared that has expanded out in so many different directions for both of us. But I couldn't afford to take my wife on a trip at that time. We was about 1.5 years in, and she said, I want to do something special for your birthday. I want to take you to St. John's. I had to process the feeling of, damn, I feel kind of weird. Like I should be able to do that for you. And I'm not at that point yet, but I also don't want to turn down this love. And when she initially told me about it, she didn't know, I didn't know until about a month into when we was about to go to St. John's that I'm about to make her my wife officially. Right. And my divine intuition and my lack of other people's perceptions dictating my moves, it put us in a space with a day of the ceremony, and we still got the footage and the evidence. My man Derek Jackson had reviewed the joint and everything. The morning of, we had a beautiful moment of us just getting rained on that went super viral. That was just so intimate. It went everywhere. A large part of why we became visible on social media was because of that. That was the morning. And I didn't even know how the day was going to transpire. I was just trusting my divine intuition and flowing with it. And by that night, we end up on Honeymoon Beach, of all beaches. And the whole time, I'm just trying to figure out where can we go and not get arrested and not get kicked off the beach. And when we finally get the information at the 13th hour, the lady says, oh, go to Honeymoon Beach, of all places. And nobody was there for our ceremony. Not a soul. I couldn't even see her face or vice versa because it was midnight. It's dark. St. John's, Honeymoon Beach, waves splashing up against the shore. We done talked about this mad times, but I had to have that aspect of my defiance of what the world told me, my leadership, and my divine intuition locked in to be able to foster and curate the most perfect experience for us that is continuing to pay dividends.
Yeah. And I think too, because it was just us at our ceremony, that's why our entire union has been so sacred
and pure. Yeah.
It was just me, you, and God. And I think what happens when people have these big extravagant weddings, the intentionality and the sacredness starts to get murky and it starts to get tainted because not everybody that comes to that wedding actually want to see you happy.
Absolutely.
And so now you have monitoring spirits who are now watching you in your joy, but siphoning it at the same time. And you're not even conscious of it. And I think when they have these big extravagant weddings, there isn't a awareness of how sacred it's supposed to be. Yeah. And sacredness really requires only those people that God has ordained to be there. So you got your coworkers, you got people that don't even like you, that you invited just because you want them to see you happy.
They judging your dress, they judging the cake.
And so many people don't even get along with half of their family, but they are there as well. So you got all of these energies just going into something that's supposed to be your safe union, a sacred union that's supposed to last you for the rest of your life. But you got other people projecting their energies and you aren't even conscious of it. It starts to sully the sacredness of the union. And I think if people were to be more just conscious of that.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean that you can't have an event to acknowledge the marriage. But when you are creating something that is so sacred, you want to have a very intimate space that allows those that you trust, those that you love deeply, and those that you know love you deeply. That way only love is going into the space. And that's not just family and friends. People get wedding advisors. People have catering people coming. You have people performing. You have people there doing the lights, people doing the cameras, people who are going through an active divorce, but they're on the team. All of these people are just there. You don't know if they having a good day, if they having a bad day, but they showing up for work. And all of that energy goes into your union and you're not even acknowledging it. So when we start to X out other people's perceptions and when we stop performing for the world, because if nobody watched you get married, would you still have the same dress? Would you still pick the same venue? Would you still pick all of the same decorations? Would it even matter? If so, if it's just you and your spouse and it still matters, then do it. But once you really do that self-assessment and you acknowledge if nobody else is here, it's just me, my husband, and God. Does all of this other shit really matter? Does it have to be there? If your soul tells you no, then that's how you know you're performing. Your marriage has now been, the wedding has been put on a pedestal, and now you're performing for outside sources as opposed to strengthening a union under the presence of God.
Yes, ma'am.
All right,
I feel like we done walk them dogs all up and down the block.
We sure did.
So yeah, man, that was our first episode of Take They Mics. Hopefully y'all understand our flow and how we gonna be approaching this. If y'all got ideas, if y'all done seen a clip, somebody saying some craziness, shoot it to the DM, shoot it to our Instagram, social media, whatever it is, all that stuff, all that information will be in the caption. And yeah, we just planted a seed. We just opened a portal, and hopefully y'all can get something out of that, whether y'all agree with us or not.
Absolutely. And so this will be a 2-part video. So probably the part where it's the marriage stuff, we'll put that on the second part. But yep, so y'all comment, like, subscribe, hype this video, send us clips if you see something you want us to react to. You can order my book, Remember Who the Fuck You Are, on my website, CandissLove.com. Also, we have a retreat coming up in May. We still have spaces available, so you can sign up for our retreat.
May 28th to May 31st in LaGrange, Texas, about 1 hour and 40 minutes from Houston. And we are still doing interviews for that, so make sure y'all hit us up. Also, just on some spring cleaning, I know before with our approach to God Is Me Again podcast, those episodes will be coming, but we're gonna chop the bird up. We're not just gonna do just the full video. Those will go up, but when y'all see the clips go up, make sure y'all share the clips. When y'all see the shorts go up, make sure y'all share the shorts. Make sure y'all subscribe, hit the notification button, comment, put the likes up there, and just have us help us to expand these conversations beyond our normal audience. We are both accepting counseling clients. For my wife, one-on-ones. For me, I do one-on-one, family, couples, as well as meditation mentoring. Like my wife said, her book, I got my album, Yahweh, Yes, All Wounds Eventually Heal, is out right now on all platforms. A phenomenal body of work that has a lot to do with healing through my perspective. So it's not just your regular modern hip hop. Energy Bougie, y'all can go ahead. You know, last time we was doing these, I was in the process of putting my line together. I got a whole line. The website will also be in the caption. So make sure y'all go support and send a message to the world that you're going to be very serious about your energy, whether it's marriage or whether the food you're going to eat tonight for dinner. That's what we on.
Yep. And also we're starting our own mentorship program as well. So that information will be coming out. It's a mentorship program.
Group mentorship.
Yep. Group mentorship, group chat. And we'll basically be speaking to everybody a few times a week, homework assignments, courses, all of that's going to be a part of it. So we're excited about that. We'll have the information probably in the next video.
I think we good.
All right. Bye.
All right. See y'all on the next one.
When people show you who they are, you should believe them. They comfy being lost, they resent you for trying to lead them. Full of their own trauma, you'll hurt them, just try and feed them. My wisdom felt like prison, we split up to give you freedom.